At exactly 2:17 a.m., the landline rang inside the old lighthouse on Black Ridge Point, not once, not twice, 3 times. Then it stopped. 74-year-old Harold Whitaker was already awake. He hadn't slept properly in months. He lived alone in the lighthouse ever since the town automated it, or at least, he believed he was alone. The lighthouse had been decommissioned for years, but Harold had permission to remain as caretaker. The town of Black Ridge rarely visited. Tourists stopped coming after the rumors began. Some said strange lights flickered at night. Others whispered that a figure could be seen standing in the lantern room. The phone rang again. 3 sharp rings, then silence. Harold did not rush. He had learned something important over the past 6 weeks. Whoever was calling never stayed on the line. He walked slowly toward the phone, his boots echoing softly against the wooden floor. When he lifted the receiver, the line was dead. But this time, it was warm. Harold's jaw tightened. The line should not have been active. The lighthouse number had been disconnected years ago. He personally removed the wiring from the outer pole himself. Yet every night at 2:17 a.m., it rang. And tonight, for the first time, he was certain of one thing. Someone was inside the lighthouse with him. Harold did not panic. He stood still, listening. The lighthouse had its own language. Wood expanding, wind brushing against the glass, distant waves striking the rocks below. But this sound was different. A faint shuffle. Not from the stairs, not from the door, from above. The spiral staircase curved tightly along the stone wall, leading to the lantern room. Harold's tall frame moved carefully as he climbed, one hand gripping the cold railing. His breathing stayed slow and measured. Whoever was up there had chosen the only place with no exit. When he reached the top, the lantern room was empty. Moonlight spilled through the dusty glass panels. Painting silver lines across the floor, the old rotating light had long been removed. But Harold noticed something that made him freeze. The fog on the glass had a fresh handprint pressed into it. It was not small like a child's. It was not large like his own. The fingers were long and narrow, as if someone had been watching the sea, or watching him from above. Harold slowly turned in a full circle. His pale blue eyes scanned every corner. No footsteps behind him, no breathing other than his own. Yet as he stared at the handprint, it slowly began to fade. Not from drying, but as if the warmth that created it was withdrawing into the darkness. Harold stepped closer to the glass. He placed his own hand over the fading print. It was still faintly warm. Not from the sun, not from the lantern, from touch. Someone had been here seconds ago. He turned quickly toward the spiral stairs. No sound of footsteps, no door opening. The lighthouse had only one entrance, and he had locked it himself. The key was still in his coat pocket. Harold's tall shadow stretched across the circular floor as a cloud passed over the moon. And in that brief darkness, he heard it again, a slow exhale. Close, too close. "Who's there?" His voice was steady, deep, trained by years of speaking over wind and storm. Silence answered him, but the silence felt heavy as if it were waiting. Then something caught his eye, not on the glass this time, but on the metal railing of the inner column. A thin strand of dark hair was caught between the bolts, moving gently in the draft. It did not belong to Harold, and it had not been there before. Harold carefully removed the strand of hair from the railing and held it beneath the lantern light. It was long, dark, not gray like his own thinning hair. Whoever had been here wasn't another old caretaker. He moved down the spiral stairs slowly, boots echoing against iron. The lighthouse smelled different now. Not just salt and oil, something faint, like cold rain on wool, fresh, recent. Halfway down, he froze. The main door at the bottom was still locked from the inside. No broken glass, no forced entry, no second exit. When he reached the ground floor, he noticed something else. The small wooden table near the radio had shifted slightly. Only by an inch. But Harold was a man who noticed inches. On the table lay his old leather logbook, opened. He was certain he had closed it before climbing up, yet now it rested open to a blank page. And across that empty sheet, pressed deep into the paper as if written by a heavy hand without ink, were faint indented words. "I remember." Harold's fingers trembled slightly as he tilted the page toward the lantern light. The words were not written in ink. They were carved into the paper by pressure alone, as if someone had traced the sentence with a pen that had no refill. The letters were firm, careful, deliberate. He turned slowly toward the narrow hallway that led to the storage room. The air felt heavier there. His heartbeat thudded against his ribs, steady but louder than usual. For the first time in years, the lighthouse didn't feel like a companion. It felt like it was watching him. The storage room door stood slightly open, just a crack. Harold was certain he had shut it earlier. He stepped forward, pushing it open with his palm. Inside, the old trunk where he kept his late wife Eleanor's belongings sat untouched. Except for one thing. Her navy blue scarf was no longer folded neatly inside. It lay draped over the edge. Harold swallowed hard. Eleanor had long, dark brown hair that reached her shoulders when she was alive. She had sharp cheekbones, soft gray-green eyes, and always wore that scarf on stormy nights, when she would visit the lighthouse bringing him warm tea. She had passed 15 years ago. No one else knew where that scarf was kept. Then, behind him, soft but unmistakable, came the sound of a woman's voice near the stairwell. Harold. Harold spun around. The staircase was empty, no figure, no shadow, only the faint echo of his name. Lingering in the cold air, his steel blue eyes narrowed. He realized it wasn't a stranger trying to scare him. Whoever or whatever it was knew him intimately. He moved toward the lighthouse lantern controls, the old brass levers cold under his fingers. Moonlight spilled across the floor, revealing another strand of dark hair caught in the railing. It matched the one he had found earlier. Whoever it was had been watching him for days. Then he noticed a small envelope tucked behind the logbook. Harold carefully opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper with tiny, precise handwriting, "I never left." Harold's sharp eyes scanned the lighthouse, every corner, every shadow. And then he understood. The calls, the handprints, the whispers, the hair, it wasn't a ghost. It was a memory preserved in meticulous care. His late wife Eleanor had prepared a system of recordings and messages to appear after her death, guiding him, reminding him that he was never truly alone. Harold sank into the wooden chair by the radio, holding the scarf close. The landline rang again at 2:17 a.m. He answered calmly. A familiar warm voice whispered, "I remember. Always." He smiled, a deep, quiet smile. The lighthouse felt alive again, not because of fear, but because love, mystery, and memory had intertwined. In a way only time could craft.